Welcome back, and thanks to Rappi. Thanks for joining us. I mean, you've been here with us from the morning
Of
till
course.
the last hour of Rappi Done right here on Rappi Television. My name is Martha Alu.
My name is Victor. Okay, welcome to the big conversation right here on Rapid Television. Welcome.
Victor cannot stop talking about the football. If we leave him, he's going to turn this conversation to the football.
Sports,
Wonder why
right?
he didn't join Victor in Jama. But yes, let's move to a story that collided, or two stories rather, from one from our backyard and one from thousands of kilometers away in the Persian Gulf. And together they are about to decide what you and I pay for fuel, for transport, for Gary, and for virtually everything else we buy. Now, right here at home in Nigeria, Dangote Refinery has done something many Nigerians didn't see coming. It has stopped selling petrol, diesel, and jet fuel in Naira. From last Monday, marketers must now pay in the United States dollars before they can load a single liter. All previously issued Naira-dominated invoices were also declared invalid, and the cooking gas LPG is exempt and remains unaffected. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a technical back office pricing decision. It is not. It touches the exchange rate, it touches inflation, and it touches the price of the bread on your table. And while we are absorbing that, thousands of kilometers away, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that a fifth of the world's oil must pass through, has been opening and closing like a revolving door for months. Now, 1 week, we're told it's shut. The next, tankers are moving again. That uncertainty alone is enough to shake global oil prices. And Nigeria, whether we like it or not, feels every one of those shakes. So this morning, we're asking the questions millions of you are asking in silence. What does all of this actually mean for me, for my transport fare, my business, my kitchen? We have a guest, Mr. Olabode Shomi, an energy expert who will help us break this down. No grammar, no jargon, just facts and what they mean for the common man. So stay with us this morning as we get on this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure's all mine.
Are you
Welcome,
smiling?
sir.
All right. One of the major conversations you see on the social space when there is a new policy or something is being talked about is how does it affect me and how does it affect the common Nigerian? A lot of us might not know. Might just hear, oh, Dangote is now selling fuel in dollars. What is that about? You say, so we really don't know. So from your perspective as an expert, can you explain in very plain terms to a common Nigerian what this means for them and for us as well?
Okay. In simple terms, anytime there is a fluctuation between the naira and the dollar, it affects your cost of buying. Well, that's simply what it means in simple terms.
Okay.
So what it means is that if 4 times in a week the naira to the dollar goes up, your cost of fuel increases 4 times a week. So that's technically what it means, but it's a lot more than that, in the sense that these are economic issues, and it's going to look into fiscal things and all that, the amount of dollar available to the country, blah blah blah, and all that. Now, as to what I think my Nigerians really want to hear is whether it is right or whether it is fair and all that. That's a completely different issue. That's an issue of business. That's an issue of it's a business decision because it's a private company. It's also an issue of their own relationship with government at the moment, and many other indices. Now, as to how it affects more directly the common man in terms of it simply means that there's going to be more price fluctuations, and the only solution, which has always been the issues to energy security, really, is that there will have to be some alternatives that can compete. Because if those alternatives cannot compete, you're going to be saddled with what you call options choice, which is basically an old Englishman who used to sell some things related to horses. And you will have like 5 different stalls, but you can only choose the first one. So basically, even though there are options, you are only choosing the one. So they call it options. It's an English idiom for saying it's a choice, but it's also no choice. So at the end of the day, some things remain to be seen. because yes, we can analyze, we can look at all those things, but it also remains to be seen how these forces meet with basic economic forces of demand and supply. What will just help everyone is that there must be some alternative to what is being supplied from the Dangote Refinery. Okay. Otherwise, we are left to whatever he says.
Now, if you take a mind back, for decades, one of the biggest challenges we've had as a nation is that we exported crude oil, but we constantly imported refined petroleum products. And today we have Dangote Refinery, which is one of the world's largest single train refinery that is operating from Nigeria. But we're still debating the access to crude, the foreign exchange, and the fuel pricing, which is where we are again now. Have we really solved, the refining problem in Nigeria?
Okay, so the problem has not really been a refining problem, in the sense that, yes, it is true that we were not refining for decades, but we were not refining for decades because in the overall perspective of the supply chain, which is basically drilling, refining, midstream and downstream, it really did not matter so much initially. So if we take our steps, if we take back, we've been refining since the 70s, 80s. It was during the June 12 crisis in the early 90s and the sabotage of some of the things that the then government decided that they should import, because people were holding hostage the refining process and there wasn't fuel for people to go about their daily lives. That was how refining started. I mean, that was how importation started. But some people were basically making a lot of profit from the importation. Because I remember somebody in the papers then saying that this importation may not stop, because for every tanker that comes in, somebody makes about $1 million profit. Somebody said that in the papers then. I was in the university, so I remember that. So obviously, whatever be the case, that importation was in such a way that it helped whoever was benefiting from the importation to sabotage the refining process. So one of the key things that we've had in our refinery is actually even sabotage. It's not technical, because the refinery is not working, not because we don't have the competence. It's not a technical thing. It is because of other factors apart from technicality. So, but over time, people have been talking about the losses that have come in as a result of us not having that part of midstream operations here, which is the refining. But the key losses there, even though people talk about the cost, it's not so much the cost. It's more of loss of jobs and competence. Because oil is a global commodity, just like you have coal, you have cotton, you have rubber and all that. The prices of crude oil tends to be similar. The prices of refining tends to be similar. The prices of transportation tends to be similar. So if we start refining today, where we're really saving costs will be in the area of the cost of transporting the crude oil to the refiner and the cost of the cost of transporting it back. Because whether it is refined here or refined somewhere else, you are going to pay for refining. You get. So what has happened with the coming of Dangote, especially in the early days, is that there has been an overhype of its capacity to reduce costs. And it is that hyping and reality that Nigerians are having to live with. Dangote Refinery, on the other hand, also needs to live with the fact that it has borrowed money, a lot of it in dollars, and they need to pay back. And some of the people it's borrowed from are Jews. So they need to pay back their money. So those are some of the factors pari passu. So what it will actually help all of us as Nigerians is to actually know the facts of the matter rather than looking for somebody to blame. In terms of crude supply, Nigeria only has so much crude. You get. So in the 70s, I remember during the Gowan era, we were producing, I think, 2.3, 2.5 million barrels per day. As of today, we are producing about 1.5. In the 70s, our population was about 60 million people. Now, it's over 200 million. And so what we produce, incidentally, unlike in the 70s, where crude was not the main source, the only source of income, you had granules, you had cocoa and all that. Those ones are not there. So from that crude that we produce, not all of it even belongs to us. So we are either operating under a joint venture or production sharing agreement. So let's say 40% or 45% of what we produce goes to the partners, the IOCs that are producing it. So out of that 1.5 million, let's say 900, let's just say close to 800 or 850,000 is what actually comes to us. Out of that 850,000 barrels, some of it is going to be used to pay debt. The debt that the nation has owed over the years, the debt and that they've inherited, some that the new, so there's national debt obligation that goes out of it. It is from there that they are going to run the government. They are going to pay civil servants. They are going to buy medicine for hospitals to have, all those kind of things. All those things are there. So it is also from there. By the time you remove what is remaining, then they now start considering giving Dangote some of it and all that. So the idea or the thinking that Nigerian crude can satisfy Dangote is a myth, because it's not there. You get what you don't have, you cannot give. Okay. So that's just a simple fact of the matter. So he is also obligated to source crude from other places to meet his own demand, and those are the realities on ground.
Okay. You made mention of something when we started, and you said it's a conversation about whether this is right or wrong. I don't think Nigerians know. It's an entirely different matter. So let's get on to the matter now about whether this is right or is wrong. Because I see the FCCPC on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning talking about sales in dollars while we're in Naira. And sometime in 2025, we had a popular fashion designer, celebrity here in Nigeria, who was on a podcast and spoke about how she sources her materials more like the same situation we're seeing with the Dangote Refinery now, outside of Nigeria. And so because of that, she would not be able to charge her clients in Naira. She would rather charge them in dollars because she sources her materials, her fabrics and whatever in dollars. So let's talk about that. Is it right? Because the FCCPC has weighed in to talk about that. What do you think?
So it's not, when it comes to business, it's not really morality. It should be about the law.
Okay.
So what does the law say? I think there's a bit of a gray area. I think because it had come up before in the sales of gas, where gas, in fact, one of the reasons why power sector is always at losses is because gas supplies in USD, even though it's converted to the Naira rate. What we need to do, there's a part of the law which says that transactions in Nigeria can only be done in Naira, which is a way to protect the currency, national integrity and all that. But there's also some gray area, which I can't remember, which allows those permits to do that. So that is where people need to weigh in. Either they need to strengthen the law or they make it totally lax. That is a decision Nigerians need to make. Whether we want to strengthen our Naira and ensure that all transactions are done here in Naira by law. Otherwise, the other part of it will be that they make it lax, that everybody can do it. As to the morality of it, whether it's right or wrong, that's something we need to look at differently. But having said that, let me say this. There's hardly anything in Nigeria that you don't import part of it. There's hardly anything. Even bottled water today is done via a process called reverse osmosis, which you actually need to import the equipment for it. For those ones, the ones that you see that are popular, Nestle, and co. Even the servicing of it, many times you even need to import technicians and all that. That doesn't mean that we should start selling bottled water in dollars and cents on the streets, simply because parts of, how is it going to make sense if you want to buy Nestle water and they say 50 cents, and then they now start saying that, oh, it's because we're importing. So that argument does not quite cut it. It's just convenience, because everybody has some part of whatever they're getting. So it is about us as a nation saying that this is what we want. You get, we can, there are houses in highbrow areas in Abuja and in Lagos where the landlord charges in dollars, because they will come up with whatever reasons. Some of it can have some logic, some of it can have some moral backing, but that doesn't mean it's right. That's right. So two things on that. The first is that there must be, the law must say what it is. Then number two, we as a people and as a culture need to have a culture that protects the Naira and pushes the Naira. Because if societal expectation is and culture does not promote use of foreign currency, it will be abnormal for anybody to demand it. No matter how much dollar you hold, you cannot go anywhere in Europe and want to spend dollar. It's not possible. Even in the weakest countries. And there are a number of countries in Africa. I mean, if you go to South Africa, for example, we are not going to find it convenient to spend US dollars. You get. So the thing is that the culture, our own culture as a people, must see value in the Naira and promote it, because nobody else can promote it. Because all this talk at the end actually weakens the Naira more, even in terms of practices. And if the Naira is weakened, it's an economy. Because if we don't believe in the Naira, then let us close the central bank and start looking up to the Federal Reserve Bank of the US.
But isn't that what the Naira-for-crude policy was supposed to address? Because it was launched in 2024. And according to the government account, it was supposed to protect Nigeria and Nigerians from this kind of exchange rate pressure. So do you think that this has specifically solved the problem, or it has failed, or can it be salvaged?
Okay, so the issue with the Naira-for-crude, like many things that happened around that time, is that the details of that contract was not made public. And it's still not made public. So that's your own responsibility to ask those who are saddled there to give details. So it is when we really know the details there that we can speak to it. Yes, the government did say that was one of the things. And so that is why if you speak to government officials, you can pick them on this quote that government initially said, which Dangote also agreed at the time. And then if you speak to a Dangote official, you can say what happened to that. So until we get the details, it's going to be difficult. We're only going to speculate and all that. The details of that agreement, you get. And truth is that because of, there's actually a law that enables freedom of information bill. Is enough to actually, somebody who has a legal, legal capacity can actually apply to get the details of that contract, so that Nigerians will know what is in there. But yes, that was the intention. That was the purpose. Why that is not working, I can't speak to that because I don't know. Exactly. You understand? So it's when we look at the terms of that contract, is what we can speak. But for now, it is one of those things that is a mystery. Well, you know, it's like you have taken chloroquine and it's not working. So only doctors can explain.
So you're right.
Again, Dangote Refinery actually argued that the crude oil is largely purchased in dollars, and of course, selling refined products in Naira creates a currency mismatch for them. That's one of the arguments. You've spoken to this a little bit earlier on, but Nigerians also believe that a refinery built in Nigeria, processing Nigerian crude, should be able to help protect Nigerians from exchange rate shocks, basically. Because you have also mentioned earlier when you first helped us to explain what the dollar to crude now means, when it means that if there's instability 4 times in a week, it means it goes up 4 times in a week. With all of this shock, coming up now for Nigerians, how can Nigerians now balance, or how can there be a balance basically in all of this?
I think sometimes we have expectations from humans on things that are not human factors. It's a bucket. So it's like you go to Garki market here or Wuse market and said, how are we going to determine the price of pepper going down? There are forces that are at work. So Dangote, by its actions, have set certain market forces into play. The buyers, the market, the system, the government, the regulators will have to respond one way or the other. And one of those responses is what has come in from the FCCPC. There is going to be some kind of position at some point from the regulator. There's going to be response from even the people, because if the price goes beyond what the people can afford, they probably will not buy. That's a fact. The truth in everything is that, yes, what has happened. There will be some push, there will be some pull, and then we'll see where everything balances out. That's the thing. As per a refinery in Nigeria helping Nigerians and all that. I think sometimes our expectations are not realistic. Dangote is not an NGO. It is a business. The first purpose of business, any business, including this company that is a business, is to protect its shareholders. It is not to protect citizens. I mean, it sounds harsh, but that is the truth. And if there comes a business decision to be made, and you have to choose between the interest of the shareholders and the interest of the people, the interest of the shareholders come every day. That is where it's business. You get? So that does not necessarily say businesses should not care about people. They will care about people where they have the capacity to care and where there can be a balance. But if it conflicts with the interest of the interest of the business takes priority. Yes, it's a business in Nigeria, but it's also in a free trade zone, which technically means that it is not in Nigeria. So the people who are buying from the free trade zone can and will buy like anywhere else that is outside Nigeria, which is why even when the law is enshrined that says properly, that says all businesses must take place in USD, the problem is that it can't affect even Dangote Refinery because they're in a free trade zone. So technically, they're outside the country. That is also a fact of the matter, or some wisdom that have come in from how he has done and planted his business.
Oh, wow.
All right. Interestingly so. But the independent marketers, in response to what Dangote has said they will not be able to source dollar, to be able to get into business with Dangote. So what does that mean for fuel availability for us here in Nigeria and pricing in different parts of the country?
That does not require too much intelligence.
You see it in the coming days. Right?
I mean, somebody says is selling a product, yams, in cowries, and you say you have copper or you have naira, and he says no, I need cowries. It means that they cannot buy.
Right.
Yeah. So if they don't buy yams, that means there are no yams in the market. It doesn't even require too much intelligence because it's a supply chain. So if the Dangote Refinery owns the supply chain itself, in the sense that they own the process, they have their own process of getting the final product to the filling station. We will say that, they will use their own final product to get it to the filling station and increase the price where necessary. But they don't. It means that they have their product. They'll probably sell where they need to, maybe to Cotonou, to Ghana, and co. Yes, because they must do their business. And then Nigerians, okay, you buy if you can, or don't buy if you can, those kind of things. So it's not a complicated situation at all. It is there for everybody to see.
So are there no policies that directly protect the interests of the Nigerian consumer right
now? There are many policies that protect the interests of the Nigerian consumer, but you cannot protect the consumer at the expense of the business. There must be a balance. It's a free market. Because the person who has also built business has also invested. He has taken a risk. People seem to forget that. Let's take a pullback now. It takes a lot for somebody to go and raise $20 billion or whatever, do the whole process. So there must be some amount of protection for him, for his own business. I'm not saying that everything they've done is right, but there is also the fact that he's also a Nigerian too. So it's a balancing act. There's the need to protect the final consumer. There's also the need to ensure that the business operates within a free market. So the policy cannot just say, fix the price for the guy. Just like nobody can come and fix your advert rate for you. Right. It doesn't work that way. You can imagine Broadcasting Commission saying your advert should not go beyond this. You'll be asking that, did you buy fuel for us?
But don't you think, because when you use that example now, I would say, don't you think that creates some level of coordination in the market space regarding that? Because if you ask me, I don't see anything wrong with regulation. That's why we are in the situation we are in right now regarding landlords and tenants here in the FCT. One is charging in dollars, another is charging in Naira, and the rates are quite exorbitant regardless of what the condition of the housing is. So don't you think that regulation can put orderliness to the market regardless of what the businessman does?
There's regulation, but the regulation has a limit because we are operating what you call a free market. The whole idea of a free market is that there must be the buyer must be able to express himself, the seller must be able to express himself. Where regulation comes in is where the thing is going extreme, where there can be monopoly, where the seller is taking unfair advantage of the buyer, or where the buyer is giving, or maybe it's a situation where it's a buyer's market where it's not profitable for the seller to actually operate. Those are the kind of things. So you look at the regulator like a kind of big brother, overlooking everybody in the big brother house.
Yeah.
So the big brother is not necessarily to say two of you don't sit together, two of you don't shake. No, it is when things go out of hand that they come in. So yes, things may be difficult at the moment, but it's not in everything that the regulator can come in. Otherwise, you hinder the free market. And the free market is the foundation of democracy. The world has tried many forms of government. We've tried communism, we've tried theocracy, there has been monarchy, but what makes democracy is really the free market. The fact that you can wake up today, start a business in virtually any country, and determine by the effort you put into that business to determine how successful and how prosperous your life is.
Right.
That is the essence of the free market.
Now, looking at the market as well, and based on your observation and your expertise, who then controls Nigeria's crude?
There's no one person that controls Nigeria's crude. The refiner is controlling the crude. So, for example, the people, everybody is a business. I mean, in some days now, there's going to be a bidding by the NUPRC, that's the regulator, for people for new wells. Everybody that owns a well is free to produce crude.
Okay.
And when you produce your crude, you are also free to do whatever you want with it. So if you, definitely the kind of money they use for drilling is not the kind that you take from your back pocket of your savings account. No, it doesn't work like that. There is a process for getting those kind of funds. So there's going to be, when you start getting your crude, there's going to be a process for you paying back. But after you've done all of that, there's still some that is going to belong to you. Okay. The one that belongs to you, as somebody that's gone through the process, what you like, you do with it. You can decide to put a tanker in your village and put all the crude oil there and be using it as a museum. It's your property.
Right.
You can decide to sell it and use all that money to build a university in Benin Republic, like somebody did. It's still your money. It's still your money. You can decide to. So that is the essence of the free market. So in terms of who controls the crude, no. But there is crude that belongs to Nigeria, which is the one that is in the joint ventures, in the production sharing contract, and within NMPC and all that. That one is sold and put in the federation account. It is from the money that comes to the federation account that the government is run. That's where you get the money that goes into local government, that goes into states, that goes into federal government. That's how that system runs. That's how that system runs. So if you say who controls the crude, it's not like everybody's production is under one person. No, there's no such thing.
Hold that thought, please. Let's go on a very quick break.
Right.
And we have been on the show talking about Dangote Refinery and what it means here for us in Nigeria. Let's go on a very quick break. When we get back, we'll keep up with the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, we have been speaking with Mr. Olabode Shomi, and he has been talking to us about the effect of the now trade in crude that has affected the pricing of Dangote's crude or fuel from Naira to dollar. Thank you so much for joining us here on the conversation. Now, please, I want you to piece these two stories together for us. We are talking about how does the oil price shock in the Persian Gulf affect, combined with Dangote's Naira to dollar rather, how does that switch and affect the ordinary Nigerian here, or how is that related in general?
Okay, two things. Crude oil is a commodity. And like all commodities, they share the same characteristics. Say commodities, they are fungible, uniform in pricing, blah, 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 and all that. And you see that with gold. Price of gold is largely uniform. Price of copper is largely uniform. Rubber, they are commodities. So oil is a commodity, which means its prices, even though there are differences, are largely the same. So that will establish that as a foundation. If 1/3 or close to 1/3 of a particular product becomes unavailable, the price will shoot up by simple demand and supply issues. So close to 1/3 of global crude passes through that place. We're talking about crude that comes from Saudi Arabia. We're talking about crude that comes from Iraq, crude that comes from Iran, crude that comes from Qatar, crude that comes from Kuwait. That whole place, they pass through that strait. So there's a lot of crude that is missing. When a lot of crude is missing, people will demand more. So those are the factors that increase the price of crude. Is that a good thing for Nigeria? Yes and no. Yes, because it increases our income. If you check, you realize that our budget is usually tagged to a certain price of the dollar. So if it was $50 per barrel that the budget is, and we are now 75, there's an extra amount that comes into the Federation account. Should that necessarily translate to lower prices or same price? That's an economic decision, because at that stage you are talking subsidy. But the government, in terms of its own policy, since the beginning of their era, has eliminated subsidy. Now, how does that affect us? Close to 70% of the cost of the refined product comes from the cost of crude. So if you have a particular product or service that 70% of the production material goes up, it's normal that the price will go up. So those are the reasons why, when there's a factor there, irrespective of, even if the refinery is being produced next door and you doesn't have to go through any, and there's a pipe from the refinery to your car. Once there's an increase in the cost of crude, the increase in the cost of the refined product will go up. Because so on that basis, where it shouldn't affect us is in supply.
Yeah.
Primarily because there are supply, most of our own supply does not go through what comes from the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, we also produce here and all that. So, but in terms of the cost, the final cost, we're going to be affected like everybody else.
Yes.
Let's talk about the PIA a little bit. That is the Petroleum Industry Act, which was expected to clearly define the roles of institutions like the NNPC Limited, NEPRC, and the NMDPRA. Now, from your observation as well, do you think that the PIA has actually done this? Has it defined the roles clearly, of these institutions so far?
The PIA has done its job. I think the problem of Nigerians is that we expect from a system what a system does not produce. The PIA is a law, like any law. So you have laws that are against drunk driving. Those same laws says that for you to have a driver's license, you must be a certain age. Yeah. Those same laws talk about how you move on the road. For example, when you have solid lines, you're not supposed to overtake. When you have dash lines, you can overtake and all that. But if you have a drunk driver and he breaks that law, is that the fault of the law? It's not the fault of the law now. The law has its place. The PIA is a law. It gives you parameters. If people don't follow the law, if people are circumventing the law, that's not the fault of the law. There is a place for law enforcement. There is a so that's on one side. The second side is that PIA is also a relatively new law, because the PIA is what established the regulators, NMDP, and what reshaped NNPC as we know it. Yeah. You get, those things are going to take time for it to be established, for it to be rooted, for it to be recognized, for it to enter the culture of Nigerians. And within those things, the regulators has always come out. The NMDPR, the NUP has always come out to show leadership and all that. I mean, the NMDPR lost the head of one regulator, lost a head who was considered to be anti-business, but who in his own opinion was doing his own business. So those are all consequences of people doing their job. So in terms of whether the PIA has done everything a law can do. The rest is for us Nigerians and the system to ensure that things work well.
All right. let me ask my final question about the monopoly debate. Because since the inception of Dangote Refinery, it has been said that various school of thought that Dangote is going to monopolize the market basically, and of course there's been the very fact that the Dangote Refinery has represent an unprecedented share of the Nigerian domestic refining capacity. And of course some school of thought also believe that this is exactly what Nigeria needs to end fuel shortage. And some have also argued that since the inception of Dangote Refinery, we've not had queues, we've not had fuel shortages. So far, it has been there, in access. But also others worry about the excessive market concentration that could eventually influence pricing and competition. Now, at what point does market leadership become market dominance?
There's a law for that. The law, which is the FCC, states that very clearly. And I think they also have a policy or regulation which says that once you have more than 45% share, you are considered a dominant player in the market. And the Dangote has, I think, 98 or 97%. So obviously, they are very much in there in the monopoly debate as far as the law and the policies are concerned. So that is not in debate. As to what should be done about it, that's a question for the authorities.
Really?
It's a question for the authorities. There are factors that have stopped queues and all that. I'm not so sure Dangote Refinery is the only factor that is there, because one person does not make the whole supply chain. Yes, it may have been when he came in that the some things ended and all that, but he's not supplying all the finished products that we have. He's not. So there are also factors that the government, the NNPC, the regulators have done. So you can't take the credit away from them as well. So it's not one person that makes the system. So there are factors that have come in to ensure that all those are working well. And it's the same factors that are coming in to ensure that Nigerians don't get on the receiving end of the stick in all these things.
All right. Now, there are indications that high-level meetings are currently going with the Dangote Refinery to address the recent switch, the Naira to dollar switch. Now, as an expert, from your perspective, what key topics do you think should be discussed? What should be the major conversations that should be held in such meetings?
Okay, so it's going to be difficult to say. Why I say that is that it is only the person wearing the shoe that knows where it pinches. I sincerely believe that the factors that are necessitating this announcement are not really public. And that's why one of the things I emphasize is that if we knew what were the terms of the crude for Naira deal, it would be easier to analyze what the issues are. So it's possible, it's like a couple that are fighting. It's always difficult to wade in because what is really causing the fight may not be what they are discussing. You get it is the couple that really knows where the issues are. That in terms of what is really causing the fight may be totally different from what the two people are saying. And you are trying to solve a problem, and the problem you are trying to solve is not actually on the table. So it's the same thing. I believe that there are other factors that are at play that are determining all these factors that may not be put into play. And until we know all those factors, it will be difficult to say this and this. This is so what we can only talk about is where it's affecting us, what we need in terms of the implications for everybody. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a lose-lose. If the thing is not resolved, the government is going to lose. The refinery too is going to lose. Yes, it's embedded, it's focused in export and all of that, but it still needs its own stability, especially given that the expectations of Nigerians were not that it should be exporting. The expectations of Nigerians and the support it had was to service them. Even though those expectations are a bit entitled, because it's not necessary to do that. But if the Nigerians feel or come to that reality, you can have a situation where the Nigerian public will turn against them, and I'm sure they don't want that. Nobody really wants that kind of situation. So
the hardest, the hardest to be hit in such conversations would be the average Nigerian home and the small business owners. Since you have diplomatically left the conversation of what you tell the government to do, what would you tell the average Nigerian home and the small business owners to prepare themselves regarding the coming months? Because we know that they will be the hardest hit.
So you see, when you talk about hardest hit, everybody is hit, especially if you are making losses, especially if things, so it depends on, there are those who are hit immediately, there are those who are hit in the midterm, there are those who are hit in the long term. The factors for the common man is just the most visible and the most vocal. They're not necessarily the factors in terms of those that make the most damage. But having said that, the truth is that how do you prepare for famine? How do you prepare for difficult times? You prepare for difficult times the way it is done anywhere else, that in the good times, you have some savings, you have some, and all that. But even if you have savings, your savings can only last for so long.
Save you.
You can only last for so long. So the truth is that it is a market reality. The forces of demand and supply will come. There will be difficult times. Human beings will learn to be creative during times of crisis. And at some point, the thing will balance itself. It's called life. You get, it's not everything in life that you have a solution for. You just face certain things, you prepared both emotionally, mentally, and all that, and you adjust to make everything work well.
Let's talk about the deregulation very quickly. We've heard various government officials say that the downstream petroleum market is now fully deregulated. But do we really operate a deregulated system?
It's deregulated to the extent that government is not involved in your pricing. That's why government is not telling Dangote or anybody else, this is what you should pay and this is what you should not pay.
That's just it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation this morning. Definitely had a great time. Back to myself. All right. Back to myself and Victor in the studio. What are your concluding thoughts?
Well, I do hope that it's beyond hopes now anyways. Because again, Nigerians are going to bear the brunt of the whole matter. The marketers have said, of course, that the moment Dangote begins to sell, using dollar as the currency for the sales, the marketers have said that the pump price will definitely increase. And these are the challenges that we've had over time, Martha. Those prices increasing, it means that there's going to be increasing price for every other thing, not just for the pump price, but for the toothpaste that we buy in the market, for the tomatoes that we buy every single day, for every single commodity that we want to use in our daily lives. The prices will just go up because of this singular act by Dangote Refinery. Rather. Now, how can this be solved? And this is the question that the government needs to answer to Nigerians.
Well, I personally am looking forward to a Nigeria where we don't have to be heavily dependent on the oil and gas sector. Like I guess said, in the 1960s and 70s, our mainstay used to be agriculture. We actually earned a lot from exporting agricultural products here in Nigeria. So this whole one single move in the oil and gas sector and everywhere literally shakes is becoming frequent. So the only way we can navigate these difficult times here in Nigeria is to go back to the drawing board. You would ask if we were ever there, but I know that we were there at some point where it actually did work. So we need to grow up other sectors so we don't rely so much on the oil and gas sector. And then when there's a problem, the house just completely scatters. But this is pretty much where we will wrap it up this morning on The Rapid Dawn. Thanks so much to our guest, Olabode Shomi, for taking our time to explain to us the importance of this and how it affects us as Nigerians. Just to remind us, we're active on social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, which is now X, and on TikTok, it is at Rapid TV. On our YouTube page, at Official Rapid TV, you can get a rewatch of the episode today and every other episode. www.rbnradiotv.com is our website, and it allows you to connect with us from anywhere in the world. Our latest addition is the free TV app. You can download on your iOS and your Play Store, and you can download, search for Rapid TV over there and get connected to all of our fantastic programs. My name is Martha Allo,
and my name is Victor. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.